What's up, guys? My name is Scott, and this is another episode of Out of Spec Bits. Now, today's episode is a little bit different. It is not for my hardcore EV enthusiasts. Today is for my people. It is for my EV newbies, and specifically people who are considering getting an electric vehicle. I am now officially 3 months into my electric journey. I am sitting in my 2025 Gen 2 R1S with the max battery pack, and I absolutely love this car. I am so happy with it. It fits my lifestyle, and I definitely use it how it is intended, and it gets used. I think I've got over 5,000 miles on it already, which is insane. But if I had considered what I'm about to talk about, I might have picked something a little bit different. Not to say that I don't love this, but I just might have picked something different. So let's talk about it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the biggest thing, the most important thing that I get asked all the time from people who I know in my life that don't drive electric: charging and infrastructure. I could make hours of videos on charging and infrastructure and my woes and my issues. But today I really want to focus on just 3 simple questions, especially if you are deciding to buy an EV or lease an EV, which is a great option right now. The big question, of course, is where are you going to be charging most of the time? Now, I say this because I live in a very small mountain town, and there are 2 fast chargers in my town. There's a Philips 66 with 2 dispensers, and there is an Electrify America with 4 dispensers. They are very, very close to me, and I thought public charging would not be an issue. I don't mind planning my days, and I thought, I'll just work in my car while I charge for 40 minutes once or twice a week. No big deal. Well, you should probably check on PlugShare, which is an app that can show you the reliability of chargers. People get to rate them. You should check and see what your local charging networks are rated. I oftentimes have gone with very low state of charge to particularly the Electrify America. I don't utilize the Philips 66 as much, but I kind of just thought all chargers were created equal, like a gas pump is a gas pump, not the case. So I oftentimes go to the Electrify America and 2 of the dispensers are down, or the cable's broken, or, there's even a gas vehicle parked in my spot, or in the EV spot, not mine. I don't claim to own that spot. So really consider where you are going to do most of your charging. And I also say that because if you're going to have home charging installed, that was originally what I thought I was going to have. So I had spoken to my landlord, and they have EVs, and they were like, yes, absolutely, we want you to install this charger. And it would be a level 2 charger. So that would plug into like a dryer outlet. I believe it's called a NEMA 550. And we were all good until I got my car. And then they changed their tune. Now, no shade to them. It was just something that I didn't think about. I was prepared to have charging at my house, and I really didn't think that I was going to have to public charge too much. Wrong. So thankfully, I do have level 1 charging. So where my apartment is, it's right out in front of my car. So I have been able to run just a basic cord, and I level 1 charge, which is incredibly slow. I have a very big car with a big battery. So if I was empty, it would probably take me 90 hours to charge up to 70 or 80%, which is crazy. But when I drive around town and I lose about 10%, I get about 10% overnight from my level 1 charging. So not too big of a deal. Now, another thing about charging is fast charging. Like I said, I thought that all chargers were like all gas pumps. Everything's the same. That is incorrect. That is wrong. So fast charging varies depending on your battery size and the charger that you're using. All of those things, all those components play into how fast your car charges. So using my car as an example, I have, again, big car, big battery. It probably takes me 45 minutes to go from 10% to 80%, as long as I am not being limited by the charging station. Now, that's a long time. I can use, let me think about one. Okay, there's a Hyundai Ioniq 5. I see those everywhere out here. I believe I read online that for it to charge from 10% to 80%, it's roughly like 20-ish minutes. That's a big difference. I don't know what the range is on those, but just something to consider if you are going to be using public charging and you don't have a lot of time during your week. Maybe don't get a big old Rivian. Yeah, what happens if a charger is broken? That's a good thing to think about. So I typically, when I'm going to a charger, I try to pick one with like a bunch of dispensers. But if that's not the case, I plan to have option 2, which would be like my backup charger, close enough where I'm not going to run out of charge. Thankfully, I haven't run out of charge yet, so I cannot give advice on that because I plan ahead. But the next thing I want to talk about is range and efficiency. So what the EPA says for your vehicle is not the case. So like when I'm talking about range, I'm talking about real world range, and a lot of things affect that. Maybe you are a little bit of a fast driver like me. That will make your range go down. Maybe you live in a windy place. So I drive oftentimes on the front range of Colorado. It's very flat. There's a ton of wind. That is going to affect my range. So I think it's important to check out the EPA range, but then actually find out the real world range. And you can do that by looking on forums or Googling it, whatever. And on the subject, that's more about like efficiency, but on the subject of range itself, do you actually need 300 plus miles of range? I do. I keep talking about myself because I am the example. I drive 84 miles a day, go all the way down to see my horse, and I come back up here. So I definitely needed to have a bigger battery, and I needed the range. But I think most people overestimate the range that they'll need. You know, if you're taking 1 or 2 road trips a year, you don't need that much range. So I urge you to log your mileage for a week or even a month, and then pick a car based on that realistic range. Of course, you can get whatever you want, get what makes you happy, but just something to consider. Now, the next thing I want to talk about would be the costs and incentives. So the total cost of ownership, including like home charger installation. I know some companies include that. I have not experienced home charger installation yet because I'm a renter right now. And you know, electric vehicles are typically cheaper to run, but long term, you know, the upfront costs could really surprise people. That was just something that I've read quite a bit about. And then as far as incentives go, are you eligible for state or federal or utility rebates? A lot of people miss out on these things because they don't look at them beforehand, and you do need to qualify. So I'm really lucky. I got a great state and federal tax incentives. I think that's what they're called for this car. So very, very lucky with that. And yeah, just check those out beforehand and make sure that you qualify. I think there are like income filing things if you're single or joint. I'll do a video on that and maybe highlight what the limits are or where the boundaries are. But yeah, and then considering if you are home charging, how much your electricity bill is going to change. Now, again, me as an example, public charging is expensive. It's not like more expensive than I anticipated, but I could probably pay a third of what I'm paying now if I had home charging. With my level 1 charging that I run roughly every evening, I would say my electricity bill's probably gone up like $30 a month. I don't actually get a breakdown of my bill, so I just get it pulled directly out of my account. But I've noticed about a $30 difference since getting this. I'm sure if I had level 2 charging, it might be like 100, which is still way better. I think pretty much every time I public charge, it's anywhere from $35 to 60 something dollars. Now that 60 something dollars is if I'm charging all the way to 100%. And that's definitely not something that you have to do, or that you should do. Don't do that. Maintenance and longevity. I did not realize that pretty much the only maintenance that you have to do for an EV is windshield wiper fluid. You don't really have to replace your brakes often because you're using regenerative braking most of the time. So that's not a big deal. You do tires, wheel rotations, that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing that you need to take care of as far as maintenance goes, and this is what I call like invisible maintenance, is your battery. Now, I work for Out of Spec. I know that you can't charge to 100% with the battery chemistry that I personally have. With an LFP battery, I think that you could charge to 100% every night. Let me know in the comments if I am correct on that. But the reason you don't charge to 100%, it's like your cell phone. If you charge it over time, that battery degrades and it's not going to work as well. So, or hold that state of charge as well. So in my particular car, I charge to 70% daily. Most cars are between 70 and 80%. Now, I don't actually know how long batteries last, and that's something I need to ask probably Alex about. He runs our Out of Spec Renew channel. But I would be curious to look at warranty details if your battery does go bad. That's definitely something to consider, especially if you are purchasing an EV. And then finally, I want to talk about usability and lifestyle fit. So will this particular EV that I'm considering work for me year round? Now, I live in the mountains of Colorado, meaning snow. Okay, a lot. So there's a lot of snow, and I have horses, so I am towing. I go camping, so I, need a vehicle that has off-road capabilities, and I have a dog, so I utilize dog mode all the time. Those were several things that I considered when I considered this car. If I was back in North Carolina, would I need this car? No, probably not. It doesn't snow. I would still be towing, but I can do that there are a lot of other EVs you can do that with. And yeah, I wouldn't be camping as much. I don't need off-road capabilities. So yeah, just something to think about. Like I keep saying, this is all considerations. So what else as far as usability and lifestyle fit? The software. Now, I had the luxury of driving a Tesla Model 3 that's part of the Out of Spec fleet for like over a month. I loved that software. It was very user-friendly, and I'm a tech person, so I have a background in coding. I would say I'm very tech savvy. That Tesla software is just like dumb, easy to use. It's great. I also really like their app. One big qualm that I have with Rivian is you cannot access dog mode from the app, but with Tesla you can. So you can get out of the car and then turn dog mode on. I think that's a great feature. With Rivian, I love this technology, but I do think it can be a lot when you're first starting. It's just a little busy as far as the UI goes. We've recently gotten a software update to Google Maps, which is 1,000 times better. And that's another point. No matter what EV you get, if you have one that gets over-the-air software updates, you're constantly getting essentially a new vehicle. Not physically a new vehicle, but there are new features coming out all the time. I think that's awesome. So that's a big thing for me. But making sure that you're comfortable when you're looking at an EV, thinking about route planning. So hopefully the car does route plan for you. So if you put in point A and point B, it's going to select appropriate charging stops along the way. Yeah, but other than that, I'm sure there are a lot more things I will think of after this video. Let me know in the comments if there are things that you wish you had considered when you were going to start your electric journey. And if you have questions or want more information on stuff, let me know. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.